So good morning all. Welcome to HR Talk series with the One Click. Today we have our guest speaker, Dr. Gita Desai. She is founder and head of Vishwas Human Capital Services from the Vadodara, Gujarat. And she is having more than 17 plus year experience into this field. She is post certified trainer and having more facilities, more services providing in particular HR field. So let's start with the talk. So first question is there any difference between harassment and sexual harassment? Can you please guide Dr. Gita Desai?
Yes, exactly. These are the two terms which are generally, there is a thin line difference between these two terms. One is harassment and the other one is sexual harassment. When we talk about harassment, harassment is a broader term which encompasses various unwelcome behavior. Say, for example, bullying and discrimination on the different grounds or factors. We can say race, caste, class, religion, disability, etc. Harassment specifically, it includes non-sexual misconduct in the workplace, right? And on the contrary, when we talk about the other term, that is sexual harassment specifically refers to any kind of unwelcome and unwanted behavior which is sexually determined in nature, right? It involves the behavior which is having sexual nature and which is unwanted. And when we talk about the specific term of sexual harassment at workplace, the impact of the behavior is considered the most significant and not the intention behind it, right? So yes, that is a difference between harassment and sexual harassment.
Okay, okay, great. My second question will be to you is this a law or you can say this particular act is mandatory for all establishment or there are some exemptions? Can you please guide?
Oh, exactly. Right. Of course. Very, very good question you have raised. This is again a misconception in many of the organizations' mind, right? That this is not mandatory for everyone. So, giving answer to your question, yes, this law regarding workplace, the name of the act is the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Yes, it is mandatory for all type of organization, irrespective of their constitution. This act includes, this act is applicable or mandatory for public limited companies, private limited companies, even proprietary say trusts, societies, and government departments and undertakings. So, in short, yes, definitely this act is applicable to each and every establishment.
Okay. So whether it is a small firm or whether it is a big corporate, they have to follow the guidelines under the act. If I'm
Yes,
not.
exactly. They have to follow the mandatory compliances as per the act.
Okay, great. And my third question is like, do we need to comply with the all regulation under the rules if there are no women's, no females are there in company, still we have to follow or only the follow when there are females?
Igniting questions you are asking, Mr. Because again, I have many corporates on my board, and when I go for imparting such kind of trainings to them, this is the question which I used to get it from them as well. That if we do not employ any female employee, then we are exception to it. But giving the answer to the question which has been raised here on this platform, yes, definitely organizations are required to comply with this law irrespective of a female employee they are engaged into their particular premises, right? Because this act is not only for female employees, but if we talk about that, it extends to the visitors, the customers, the vendors, the intern students, or the job seekers, those who are approaching or those who are coming down to our premises. It is applicable to them all as well, right? So yes, if the organization or the establishment is not employing a single female employee, then also it is applicable to them.
Okay, great. Now, next question will be like, what are the compliances that we need to follow under this PoSH Act? What forms
Okay.
or
So
returns
when
we
we talk
apply?
about right. So when we talk about the mandatory compliances as per the Act 2013, it says like that it goes like rather that it starts with policy formulation, that is anti-sexual harassment policy. So organization has to start with the framing or formulation of POS policy and it ends with the annual report submission. In between, there are certain mandatory compliances. I would like to focus on that. So it starts with policy formulation, then they have to have the appointment of an external member. Like me, Dr. Gita Desai, I am appointed as an external member to many corporates, right?
Hmm.
Third is about constitution of internal committee. This is a mandatory provision mentioned under the act that the organization has to constitute the internal committee, which must have one external member. When we talk about the constitution of this internal committee, minimum requirement is 4 members, right? And amongst which 50% must be the female representative, right? Fourth is about having the quarterly meeting with the internal committee members along with the external member. Next is going ahead with the awareness and sensitization programs related to this particular aspect, sexual harassment for employees. Then is capacity and skill building training for the internal committee members, and it ends with preparation and submission of the annual report under the act to the district collectorate office.
Okay, great. So every company has to follow these all compliances under the
Yes,
rules.
of course. If they would like to go ahead with 100% compliances.
Yeah, great. Okay, and last question will be from my side is everyone is talking about the females, 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 and what about males? Are there any particular act or provision under our constitution? Can you please guide?
You being the male, definitely it must have evolved from your side as well. And the same question has been raised by many participants as well.
Hmm.
They used to say me that, ma'am, since morning or since we have begun with the session, you are giving the information related to female, female, female. Then what about male? Are we not equally important for the society? So yes, definitely the answer to this question is that we will go with gender equality and we will not be gender biased here. But particularly, the Act has primarily focused on prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace. But when we talk about what about male, definitely we being the human being, each and every organizations are having their set of code of conduct, COC, which we call. So under code of conduct, the complaints of the male member can be registered, or the organizations can develop their own gender neutral policies, and under the rules and regulations of an organization, the complaint of the male employee can be taken care of. Right? It is very important for all the organization to implement this act and to go ahead with this act, because if they would like to create a safe and respectful workplace for each and every employee, the compliances under this act is very much required in the establishment.
Okay, great. So yes, definitely it is important for company to set the rules for the both, whether they are male or female. And there is one, I want to add this one thing that there is one IPC, Indian Penal Code, under section, I think 377, they can do the complaint to the High Court directly. Yes, definitely it is.
Even yeah, extending to this, that when we go ahead with the recommend, in case the complaint has been registered in any of the organization, and we being the internal committee members, we go with the investigation and everything. Later on, we have to, at the end of the all the investigation and IP proceedings, we are supposed to give the recommendations to the management. But if the recommendations given or the decision taken by the management, if it is not appropriate or if it is not
Hmm.
acceptable either to any of the party, may
Hmm.
it be a complainant or a respondent, then they have the right to go and file the appeal in the court as well.
Yeah, great. So that is all about particular questions on particular topics. So thank you so much, Dr. Gita Desai, for a wonderful knowledge sharing session. Definitely it will be helpful for the fresher as well as experienced person for the same.
Thank you. Thank you, One Clik, for giving this opportunity.